Forms the backbone of our fast discussion this morning on News Center. And joining me in studio is Marcus Anthony Agenga, who is a governance expert at ILOG. Thank you very much for making time to join us.
Thank you for having me here.
3 commissioners resigned Monday, making it 4. What are your thoughts on this?
I think from an observer's point of view, which ILOG is a body of observers.
Yes.
It throws the whole commission into disarray. One, as already been mentioned, there is lack of quorum to transact any legal business of the commission. So there's a legal problem that comes as a result of the resignation of now 4 commissioners, if you include Dr. Rosalind Akombe. So with the legal problem, there's also a moral problem, because then they have accused the chair of the commission of lack of leadership, and of course of gross misconduct. And basically we have a legal problem and we have a moral problem. And so then that brings to the center of attraction the question of credibility of the commission as it's presently constituted. Yes, and that's a big problem.
And we will get to the credibility bit, but of course, right now they're saying that we know that they do not have a quorum and by-elections are supposed to be conducted. Then what next?
Yeah, I think that what next to me is that there must be a quick need for us to constitute the select panel. Okay. Because as we have heard already, there are steps have been made by one of the MPs, and is introducing a bill that will help us come up with a select panel. So I think for me the first step as we speak now is to move the speed, have that bill enacted into law, so that we can have the process of selecting new commissioners kick off.
That is one of the options, of course, which is to constitute an IEBC selection panel. But of course, already we are seeing that there are divisions on who should constitute the panel. So we're already saying divisions, meaning it might take longer than expected or longer than it should be. Then why, and then what can we do next?
Yeah, I think it is interesting that the composition of the panel is now attracting so much debate and divisions, and is expected, because as you know, Ashley, elections in our country is a highly political and emotive exercise. So it is not surprising that that this is attracting so much discussions. However, I think that at my own personal level, there was a general agreement in the last panel, because it was arrived at and then we had representations from the civil service, from the public, in terms of the religious organizations, the judicial service. They both nominated persons. So if that panel didn't draw so much divisions, I would personally suggest that we borrow from that composition and see if that works for the people.
That is just the first option. What other options does the government have?
In our country, actually, the law vests the exclusive jurisdiction to manage elections to IEBC. So in the event that we want to do a by-election, or even the conduct of a referenda, or such other exercises, it's only the IEBC that can do it. So I think for me, I think that there is the option that comes to the fore is to move with speed to constitute that committee. Otherwise, unless, of course, Parliament comes again, discuss and modify another. Do we have to have a caretaker commission that is properly constituted by Parliament to oversee ad interim the other processes of the commission? That's the option, because we've had it elsewhere in the world, where Parliament or other bodies nominate or constitute ad hoc committees that would oversee processes as they wait for the proper constitution of IEBC.
All right. Another option that many have said is the removal of the 3 remaining commissioners, which Aden Duale, majority leader, says is going to be a tedious process. So this is also another option, and we're also saying it's also going to be a tedious and long process, leaving almost all options to be tedious and long. And with the by-elections coming, what can Kenyans do to support this? What can the government do to support this, process?
First, from an observer's point of view,
yes,
the law and the IEBC Act is quite clear on this matter, that the IEBC is a body that is independent. Mm-hmm. Now, for the one arm of government to call for the resignation or the removal of properly appointed commissioners, for me, it amounts to interference with an independent body that was appointed as such. Now, first, I don't understand why the leader of majority would want, and of course, a number of MPs are now calling for their resignation, but they're not giving the grounds for their resignation, because it amounts. I mean, why would you give an independent organ or a commission and who enjoys security of tenure to resign within 7 days? Mm-hmm. Why? I mean, I don't understand, because then the same parliament passed a law making the commission independent. And independence means here that you won't be interfered with by any person, any coalition, or any political party. So for me, I oppose, and of course, even as observers, we oppose the call for resignation of the remaining IEBC commissioners, because it amounts to an interference with an independent body. And
I'm glad you brought up the law, because the law only provides for the first appointment of the commissioner, but leaves some gaps on the recruitment of commissioners in the event of a vacancy.
Yeah, and again, this is where Parliament would have foreseen this.
Yes.
Because the law is said that the select panel would only be operational for the appointment of these present commissioners, after which it's too dissolved, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, why wait? These guys have been in office for over 2 years.
Not really. Yeah. It's just been 1 year, 3 months.
3 months, yeah.
Yes.
No, but why wait for over 1 year why is this catching us as a surprise? I mean, we ought to have foreseen that there was a vacuum in law, and they would have moved as an organ charged with the responsibility to make laws. Why wait until now? Because they could either have died in office. I mean, Akome resigned. We did nothing about it. That was in October last year.
Yes.
I mean, if Parliament took its job seriously, rather than calling for the resignation, I would ask Parliament to have taken their job seriously and enacted that law with immediate effect.
So you're faulting the Parliament?
I'm not faulting the Parliament. I mean, even if Chebukati and his team resign, so what? We will still need to constitute a select committee and take the entire process, which would cost at least 2 months. At least 2 months too. And we have by-elections, as you've said.
Yes.
And plans and the day running and even oversight of the Secretariat. Who will be doing that? So there are 2 options, I think, as I've indicated.
Yes.
Resignation does not help solve the problem. The problem is, how do we constitute another, either to replace the commissioners or institute another independent electoral management body?
Yes.
And the solution is, in the meantime, you can call or constitute a caretaker panel, or if you will, a caretaker commissioners to oversee the daily running of the commission, or be patient and first create the law that speaks to the composition of the select panel and go all the way to over 50 days.
So let's say they do resign or they're forced out of office, which will be 2016 all over again, and another body is created. Credibility, you talked about credibility when we started. How are Kenyans supposed to trust the new body? I mean, we would have seen the first one fail, the second one fail. What will make Kenyans have trust in the other body?
Yeah, I think you raise a very fundamental problem. And one of the recommendations that ILOG made after having observed the just concluded general election is that there is need for Kenyans to trust institutions. There is no way Kenyans will move forward when we have distrust of institutions. Now, first, trust is earned, right? It is earned. But at the same time, the problem that we have in our country, that the story of IEBC is told by politicians. They determine the current conversations regarding the IEBC itself. Yeah. So I think that IEBC, or rather the Commission, must invest in the public, tell their own stories. Don't allow politicians to speak for you, because then they have tendency to have their own interest at heart. So my thinking is that there is need for serious internal reflection by IEBC, and as a country, we need to think, because this is, if you remember, we had a Kriegler Commission, and it's 10 years down the line. This is the 10th year since Kriegler did an audit of the entire electoral process. We need, as a country, to do another audit 10 years later and see and have honest conversation as a country. Do we want to be replacing commissioners every electoral cycle? What is the effect of such replacement?
All right. All right, many thanks, Marcus Anthony Agenga, who is a governance expert at ILOG. Many thanks for coming to News Center this morning. We just want to go to our top stories of the